The next is Halcyon Sea, which we do have a bit more to show on Halcyon Sea. And once again, let's go ahead and pull up the Illuvidex so we can get a sense of where this is at in the world map. And while I do that, what is Halcyon Sea and why, and in what ways is it unique versus other regions in Illuvia?
Well, Halcyon Sea is like a giant landlocked area, and it's like a coral reef kind of place that's above the land basically. It has some like very weird kind of features to it, and it's mostly just it's got to feel very tropical and chill and surfs up dude kind of vibes basically.
Surfs up dude vibes. There it is.
Yes.
And so anybody who's checking out the Illuvidex, you can go dive into Halcyon Sea, go check out the different land plots as you see fit. Once again, as ever, all of these numbers are placeholders in the Illuvidex. This is a pre-launch version of the Illuvidex, just giving you a sneak preview on that. But enough about the Illuvidex. Let's go look at the concept art, which is going to let you know what Halcyon Sea is going to look like on the ground level. So let's just get straight into this, which is very different than all the other regions we showed you a moment ago. Surfs up, dude, and chill galore. What are we looking at?
This is a concept piece for the obelisk area, which is called the Takifugu's Dome. And if you're watching this, write down Takifugu, and then maybe at some point Google that, and then you'll find something very cool because it's actually named after one of the greatest artists of the animal kingdom, which is the Japanese pufferfish, and they create this very intricate sand pattern, and we try to mimic that into the game as a homage, basically. So
that's a cool tidbit. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And here's another angle on the dome obelisk.
Yeah, and something odd you see is the giant structures trying to sort of grow over the obelisk. And it's somehow failing to do that. And there's something with the obelisk, the energy that it sort of like apparently has, that's allowing it to not be grown over.
And that's all we're going to say about that. Go discover it on your own, players, when you get in the game. And here's Halcyon Falls. I mean, to me, this reminds me, this is like, for me, like just a classic, like fantasy concept art right here. You're like, feel like you're on the edge of a coral reef leading into a fantasy world. This is nuts. Tell me about this.
Yes. So what we're looking at is the Bifun stairs. It's like all of these pools laid up. In the game, it's actually going to be even bigger than this. And in the background, you see the water coming down from the Halcyon Falls, which is a giant waterfall. And if you go to the next image, you'll see that you're sort of made it atop, and you see all of these colored pools in the foreground. And there's like this giant deep lake almost below the waterfall, which is called the overflow pond. And there's, some people say there's stuff in there, or something lives in there. You know?
Go jump in there, players. Maybe you'll die, maybe you'll live, maybe you won't. You'll find out when you discover it. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just a reminder, we're being cagey about details because we want you gamers, we want you players to go discover the overflowing pool, and we want you to find out what mysteries may or may not be in there. And I assume this is what you're referring to with the deep portion here.
Yes. Yeah. There's something maybe.
There might be something in there. Write that down. When you get in the game, go check that out and let us know if you find something. Perfect.
Exactly.
And then here's another shot of the waterfall. God, look at the scale on this, man. Look how tiny the ranger is down here.
Yeah.
Versus this waterfall. This is just, gosh, like this is like 5x the scale that you normally see in video games for features and landmarks like this.
We have a lot of that in Illuvium. You know, I mean, if you're looking at this, you go like, wow, she's tiny. But as soon as you sort of get into the eye level, and you're actually playing the game, then you get the same effect, going like, holy, this is big. And it's really cool that we're especially achieving that in a lot of these early works that we're doing inside of the engine in blockouts. There's the feelings that we sometimes get when we see these concept arts. We're actually achieving that most of the time in the actual game as well. So that's really cool.
It's cool. It's cool to know that the community gets inspired when we release this sort of stuff, and they're inspired to want to be involved and to engage. But on another side, it inspires the internal team to create and to want to work harder to achieve this vision, because we all want to be able to explore this and really be in this moment we see in this image. And that
exactly.
is really motivating.
Yeah, that's a large part of why we make this kind of stuff, and also the direction we go with most of our stuff. Where we sort of try to wow, holy, that's big, and holy, that's colorful, or far away, or high up. We want to have that wow effect with everything, basically.
That emotional moment. Yep. And those are the things that stick with you. That feeling you had when you experienced XYZ in a video game. That's what
Yes.
sticks with you. The logic, the strategy, the details, they rarely stay, but the
Hmm.
feeling stays forever. So
Exactly.
that's a really good point. Oh wow. I feel like we're in like a coral reef, but it's outdoors here.
Yep.
I started scuba diving when I was 13, and I feel like I'm underwater, but we're not. So tell
We're
us about
not.
this area, Whaleback Ridge.
Yeah, so on the border edge of Halcyon Sea, of the whole region, basically, it's sort of like bordered up against the sea. And this is the Whaleback Ridge, which has all these stromatolites. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but they're the oldest living organisms on our planet. And they have similar kind of things on Illuvium
Mm,
that grow into these impressive structures with corals hanging out of them, and they actually sort of release some water and stuff as well, so we get that lively feeling of things moving and being around you when you're actually on there running around trying to look for alluvials.
awesome. So much of what's in Illuvium is inspired by nature
Oh
on
yeah,
Earth, and
definitely.
but then is obviously twisted or fantasized, if you will, or turned into a fantasy version or a more out there, wild, mixed up, remixed version of different nature elements put into one. But it's all based in, let's call it, reality in some way or
Oh yeah,
another.
yeah. For a lot of these things, I'm kind of a nature freak myself, and I really like fish and animals and stuff like that. So for most of these, well, not mostly, but a lot of the things we come up with, I can actually sort of have a whole idea of how this works and why it's in the environment and how it's functioning, stuff like that. Kind of nerd out over that sometimes.
Yeah, well, everybody watching is nerding out over it as well. And they'll probably nerd out over this as well. Look at these
Yes.
beautiful waterfalls. And I mean, come on. This is actually going to be in the game? Tell me about this.
Yeah, we're gonna try and do our best to get this 1-to-1 in the game. It's very difficult. We're
Hmm.
working with hundreds of different assets. They all have to be, you all have to be able to step on them, and you have to fly over them and climb on them and stuff like that. So it's a big challenge, but we have the people who can actually make it work. So that's pretty amazing. And I think asset wise, this image you have in front of you is
Hmm.
we're pretty much sort of building all of these things now. We
You
actually
like
know how to
right
do
this
it.
minute. Got it. You're building, and by assets, you mean the
All of what you
plants,
see, yeah, we got to
yeah.
sort of take those out. We got to create concept sheets for them, and then they
Hmm.
have to go to modeling, and then to texturing, and maybe sometimes grooming, because there's like hair kind of stuff on these.
Hmm.
And then eventually they will have sounds, and they'll maybe sometimes have animations, and they have some tech because there's water coming, so we have to be treated by a tech artist, and eventually be placed in the environment by an environment artist. Like I said, it's like a piece of art built by 200 artists. That's
So cool. And it's so cool to see Halcyon Sea looking like this versus Cinder we just saw in Crimson
oh yeah,
Waste, the driest bone dry red desert you've ever seen. And then this lush, like you're basically underwater, but not here in the Halcyon Sea. I love the
exactly.
variety. Like people are going to want to traverse and explore all of these regions just to mix things up and to keep it interesting.
Yeah,
And here's the Indigo Crypt entrance. Once again, classic design here, where like literally the formations on the entrance are like almost like pointing like in
yeah,
here, go
yeah.
in. So tell
If
us
you
about this.
Well, she's about to go in if you if you look closely.
Right. Oh yeah, I didn't even see that. There's the ranger. Look at the scale on that. See that teensy tiny ranger over there? This is a pretty
Yeah,
big entrance. This is
it's
interesting.
it's like an enormous shell structure that's sort of built into the or grown into a mountain almost,
Hmm.
and it's sort of as soon as you get in there, you'll notice that you're inside of a shell, and then at some point you're sort of like inside of a living stone. So the wall texture go from shell material eventually to sort of flesh material, and with there's all of these gill kind of things flapping around, and it becomes wet and moist, and I probably if you're in there it's probably gonna start to stink.
Mm.
So Yeah, that's and there's like a whole system underground inside of the structure that you can explore. So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. And speaking of which, we're going in right
Exactly.
now. Wow, look
Yes.
at the coloring on this. So the color transition from the outside to the inside. Yeah, and it does feel like you're in something that's almost alive here. Like it looks like almost like an esophagus to me as you're going inside this space, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no,
But tell us
you're right.
about what we're going into here. I mean, you mentioned there's a shell on the outside. I don't know if you want to tell us exactly what this is, but
No.
this is wild.
Yes. Like I say, you get more and more the feeling that you're inside of something that's alive. That's
Hmm.
basically and if it really is, or if it's just the plants and the materials giving you that sense, maybe. But we'll never know.
Maybe, maybe not. You'll have to find out, gamers. And here we
Yes.
go. This is a V2, if you will, of Inside the Crypt. So obviously being refined a bit. And wow, look at this ultra cool bioluminescent blue water here. Really,
Yeah.
really interesting.
Almost like a Gatorade or something.
Yeah, or Gatorade or Powerade, where you're like, should I drink this? By the way, I
Maybe.
don't recommend you drink anything in Illuvium.
No.
It'll probably kill you.
Yes.
This as well. So this is really interesting.
Yeah, and this like the whole system inside of the Indigo Crypt is there's like tunnels and things you can climb on, and go a different route or the other way, and you have to you can sort of like explore inside of this thing.
Whatever it might be, which we're not going to say. Got it. And then, oh wow, things turn a bit purple. And Pango. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so at some point there is this space, and it's called Pango, which I think is black in Maori, the New Zealand language.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think that's I came up with the name. I think that's what it was. But yeah, there's like this sinkhole into forever blackness, basically.
Mm.
There's crystals on the side of the wall, so you can sort of try and traverse down a little bit. But at some point, even the crystals disappear, and it's just black underneath you. So
It's abyss-like. So
yeah,
this is, I assume, us traversing deeper in with the light shining down, and this kind of gives us an idea of the depth of
yeah,
this. Mm,
exactly. And it becomes getting slippery, and there's algae
mm.
like stuff growing over it. And at some point, you just feel like you don't want to slip and disappear forever. So
I love the danger, the feeling of danger. In any area you're trying to traverse, it'll add difficulty and it'll kind of keep you on the edge of your seat and keep you interested as you're
yes,
trying to move about.
yeah,
I hope that there are some resources of some type crammed down here, so we have to traverse through the slippery abyss to get to the bottom. And then here we are in a different area, exiting Indigo Crypt.
yeah. So there's probably going to be a few ways of how you can exit this tunnel system, and one of them is on the north. It says north, but I think it's on the south side of the map, which sort of leads you into the Sea of Ancients, is what it's called. And I think that's in the next slide where you start to sort of get a feeling for the Sea of Ancients, where basically ancient coral structures have started to grow into a wild forest of all kinds of beautiful, colorful, gigantic, and smaller and salt, creating sort of salt and sand dunes, and the water is getting tinted red at the edges, as you can see.
Hmm.
It's a very, very cool place. You have some water dripping down around you, and you probably hear some stuff and
There's the
cracking
red
and
tint he's
moving.
referring to on the edge there. Just zooming in on that. That's interesting. I love the contrast between that red and then the color of the water too. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and if you can see, it's even on her, where she stands. So there's
Oh, around
something
her
in the
legs,
water.
whatever that red is, which we are not going to say. That's on hers, or it's on our ranger as well. So interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. We won't want to say too much there and ruin what that may be. And this is just another. God, look at the scale once again, friends. You're just this tiny ranger out here in this wide, wide world. Have you ever seen coral like this? Come on, that's nuts.
I
What
know it's
beautiful scale
giving.
here.
I know it's giving Mark a massive headache. So I'm sorry, Mark. Mark is our lead environment artist. He hates us for building these. So
Got it. Yeah, got it. It's like, Mark, you're good at building things, right? Cool. Make it way bigger, please. No,
yes,
it's not big enough. It's supersize it.
yeah.
That's so cool. That is what we have to show for Halcyon Sea for now.